Hello folks, my name's Matthew, and I'd like to talk a bit about my bee, the Vancouver bumblebee, or the bumbler, also known as Bombus vancouverensis. The Vancouver bumblebee is part of the largest bee family, Apidae, which comprises honeybees, bumblebees, and orchid bees, among many others. Like all bumblebees, the bumbler is eusocial. This means she lives with a colony of many other bees and a queen, with divisions of labor and collective brood care. Like also most bumblebees, Vancouver bumblebees usually nest underground. Vancouver bumblebees can be found all across western North America, as far north as Alaska, and all the way down to California. She is likely the largest of the 5 contestants, with workers weighing in at 8 to 14 millimeters in length. She isn't picky, and will forage from many different types of flowers, making her polylectic. I think the most interesting thing about the bumbler is that she has more than one look. Recent taxonomic revision has identified 2 subspecies of Vancouver bumblebee, which were thought to be part of an entirely different species, Bombus bifarius. One subspecies, Neararcticus, can be found throughout the majority of its range in western North America, sporting a simple black and yellow fur coat. However, if you're lucky and you live in coastal BC or on Vancouver Island, then you have the chance to spot the gorgeous black, yellow, and red color morph of this species, Vancouverensis. That's right, the bumbler has more than one outfit, and she's not afraid to show it. That glamorous red look that she can sport is found only in coastal British Columbia. Another interesting fact about the bumbler is that she is only one of 2 bumblebee species known to use pheromones for kin recognition. This is done by the male bees, which patrol other nests and leave a scent trail to try and attract reproductive females. I guess you could say they're using Bumble. Lastly, I think everyone should vote for this bee because she's named after BC's most popular city, Vancouver. So please, vote for the bumbler as BC's favorite bee. Thank you.
My name is Gwendolyn, and I've been volunteering with the Native Bee Society of BC for 2 years. I'm also a journey level master melittologist, and I do art, graphic design, and fundraising for the NBS BC. The bee that I'm championing is Megachile fidelis, aka the faithful leafcutter bee. This bee is found in BC all the way south to Mexico. In BC, she is considered vulnerable under the Species at Risk Act. Leafcutter bees cut pieces of leaves or flower petals to line their nesting cells. They will find a hole or an empty tunnel, usually pre-existing or made by beetles, and she'll line it with the plant material, add a ball of pollen, and lay an egg. Then she'll seal it up like a little leaf burrito and repeat the whole process over again. I personally champion the faithful leafcutter bee to be BC's favorite bee because this girl does it all. Unlike Bombus vancouverensis, she's a single mom, aka a solitary bee. She builds and provisions her young all on her own without any workers to help her. She selects and cuts out only the most perfect leaf pieces for her baby's nest, and she collects all the pollen to feed them. You'll find her often on aster, gumreed, and goldenrod. She does all this and more while still looking gorgeous. She has big, beautiful jaws and a special face horn. You'll see her on the landscape from midsummer to fall with her golden facial hair and abdominal stripes sparkling in the sunshine. And as if she couldn't get any cuter, she sticks her little bum in the air while she's on flowers so you can see where she carries the pollen on her belly. So if you're looking for the most beautiful, hardworking bee to be BC's favorite bee of 2026, vote for Megachile fidelis, the faithful leafcutter bee.
Okay, Coleoxys rufitarsis, which is the red-footed sharp-tailed, is a misunderstood villain. She bravely lays her eggs in the nests of other bees because she has no other way of feeding her babies. Black, white, and armed with a spectacular spiky abdomen, the red-footed sharptail looks like the villain of the bee world, but appearances can be very deceiving. So why should you vote for Coelioxys rufus-tarsus? I would like her to be BC's favorite bee because she is so extraordinarily deviant. She is not like other bees that have to work for a living. Instead, she dumps her babies in her cousin's nests. Coelioxys is so forlorn. She has no way of feeding her young because she has no pollen collecting hairs. She is forced to do this regretful thing. Coelioxys may not be cute and fuzzy like that bumbling bumblebee, but she does have sharp spines and is heavily armored, great for committing home invasion and perhaps a bit of infanticide. Coelioxys is tough, brave, and gutsy, and she takes a lot of risks. Would you want to steal into a leafcutter bee's nest? Look at those leafcutter bee jaws. They are scary. Gardeners especially should vote for Coelioxys. If she wasn't acting as population control, you gardeners wouldn't have any rose bushes left. All the leaves would be chewed off by leafcutter bees. By parasiting other bees, cuckoo bees regulate host populations and serve as a stabilizing force. And did you know that cuckoo bees are at the apex, the top of the bee community? They are highly sensitive to environmental disturbances. A healthy, diverse population of cuckoo bees indicates that the lower levels of the food web are thriving. There's another reason to vote for Coelioxys. That was another reason to vote for Coelioxys. There is no other bee like a cuckoo bee. And one last thing, did you know that a new cuckoo bee species has been named in the honor of the naturalist Sir David Attenborough, Epeolus attenboroughii? Well, if Richard Attenborough can lend his name to a cuckoo bee, surely you can vote for Coelioxys rufus-tarsus as BC's favorite bee. Coelioxys, you're breaking my heart. You're breaking my confidence daily. Oh, Coelioxys, I'm down on my knees. I'm begging you, please, to come home. Come on home. Please vote for Coelioxys. Bring her home. This campaign is also raising funds for the BC Bee Atlas, with donations matched dollar for dollar, up to $5,000 by a generous supporter. A bee atlas will tell us which native bee species are in BC now in the future, and tell us which flowers the bees use to feed on and raise their young. And a bee atlas will also help guide conservation efforts so we can protect the biodiversity of our native bees. So please donate as well as voting. Thank you.
She is Ceratina acantha, the spined little carpenter bee, or in French, Dilocope éperonné, meaning spurred carpenter bee. She's got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle, and she's not afraid to use them. Why do I love her? Because she is shiny as wet, iridescent emo nail polish. because she is in the subfamily Zycopinae, which is the coolest of subfamilies, because the species is in the subgenus Zadontamerus, which sounds really cool when you sing it. Zadontamerus, Zadontamerus. I love Ceratina acantha because her wings have 3 submarginal cells, which are always better than 2. That long tongue morphology beats the short tongue every time. She has 6 sweet little teeth for mastication purposes. She has sparse pilosity on the posterior legs. Who needs extra branched hairs when you have just enough? She has just the right density of punctation on her face and thorax, and sonnets have been written on the perfect shape of her hypostomal carina. Ay caramba! Doesn't she make you want to have one? Hypostomal carina! Why do I love Ceratina acantha? Because she is so small, 4.5 to 5.5 millimeters long, the size of a kernel of short grain rice, because she provides maternal care to her larvae and helps her sisters raise and protect their broods, because she nests in stems, commonly those in the rose family, chewing the pith inside to make walls between nest cells that are practical and beautiful. Haven't there been times in your life when you wished you could chew plants and turn them into drywall? How fun would that be? She is a pollinator superpower because she has a long nesting season from spring to late summer, and she is not a picky eater. Polylectic trumps oligolectic as a survival strategy every time. And Zadontamera feed from 33 plant families, including many of the colorful and nutritious fruits and vegetables that end up on your table. She is more, much more than human, and without her we would surely perish. But why do I love her? Because her tiny neck is yellow. Oh, because her butt is shaped like a perfect tiny Hershey's Kiss, and she uses it to plug the nest entrance and shows it to intruders as a shield, a mirror, a warning, and a prompt for existential reflection. If only human butts were that useful. But I must talk briefly about the males of the species. The busy females sometimes ignore them. So as added entertainment value, sometimes you get to see male-on-male action with horny little Ceratina acantha dudes with tiny sombrero-shaped white marks on each clypeus, the plural of which is clypei. And why do the females ignore the males, you might ask me? Because, wait for it, these sisters are doing it for themselves and can reproduce by parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis! No males needed! More proof that the future is female.
My name is Emily Carmichael, and I'm here to tell you about Andrena stragli, better known as a death camas mining bee. This punchy pollinator thrives where danger grows, prefers her pollen poisoned, and is always perfectly punctual. Each spring, she times her emergence to coincide exactly with the bloom of her flower of choice, death camas, a lovely white wildflower native to Western North America, often found in Garry Oak meadows and grasslands. Despite its delicate appearance, death camas is laced with potent neurotoxin. Every part of the plant is toxic to humans and most animals. Now, before we go too far down the mining bee hole, the melittologist version of a rabbit hole, bees are broadly divided into 2 groups, generalists and specialists. Generalist bees collect pollen from many kinds of plants. Specialists, they go all in, relying on just a few species or sometimes only one. The death camas mining bee is a true specialist. The toxins in death camas nectar and pollen are lethal to most bees, but not her. She not only drinks the nectar and consumes the pollen herself, but feeds that same toxic pollen to her young. And here's where things get interesting. Because the flower is deadly to everyone else, this bee has a complete monopoly. No competition, no crowded buffets, just an exclusive, all-you-can-eat toxic feast. But it gets even better. poisonous pollen is also thought to protect her offspring. Cuckoo bees, parasites that sneak into nests and lay their eggs, tend to avoid these nests altogether. In other words, her larvae are wrapped in a chemical security system. It's one of the few cases where eating something dangerous actually makes life safer. And for all you bee nerds out there, if you know Andrina, you know that identification is tough, but this one, easier. If you're standing among blooming death chemists and you see a bee, it's almost certainly this bee. And honestly, that kind of certainty can really feel like a small miracle. Now, there's a catch. Specialization comes at a cost. By depending entirely on one toxic plant, this bee is especially vulnerable to habitat loss, to climate shifts, to anything that disrupts the delicate timing between its life cycle and the flower's bloom. So why celebrate this bee? Because it tells a bigger story, a story about adaptation, resilience, and the strange brilliance of evolution. It reminds us that even in the most unlikely niches, life finds a way, not just to survive, but to thrive. So if you're looking for a champion, one that turns poison into power, competition into opportunity, and risk into strategy, the Death Chemist Mining Bee doesn't just deserve your vote, it earned it. By choosing this bee as BC's favorite bee, it also serves dual purpose of celebrating biodiversity and brings attention to the conservation of threatened ecosystems where this bee and so many other bees reside. This bee plays an essential role in healthy ecosystems, and through protecting them, we also protect the future of beautiful British Columbia.